Well, hey, Gundam Maniacs, welcome to another episode of Gundam Explained. In this episode, we're going to compare the Jegan with the Jesta. Why am I comparing it? I don't know, other than I sometimes get them confused, even though they look different in color. But yeah, I'm going to dive in and talk about how they're different and actually how they're related. It's closer than you think. You know, to start off from my own collection, this was provided to me by Santo Bell. Shout out to Santo Bell, also got me that 100 skill G-Savior. But yeah, this is a Jesta. Badass. There's a team of them. You see these in Unicorn. We're going to dive into that a little bit. And then also, the Jegan started in Char's counterattack. This is actually a Robot Spirits variant of the one that's in Unicorn. But also, you see them up into F91. So it's interesting how kind of the Jegan Jesta legacy is near like the end of that kind of Federation for Xeon era and Intel, kind of like what I call future UC, when it's just like a different political time period, different factions, etc. But yeah, let's get started. Okay, the Jegan, RGM-89 Jegan. So this came about in UC in 89, first seen in 89. So this was, you know, right after the RGM, I think that was in 89, the GM3. So the GM3 was the evolution of the original standard sort of mobile suit mass production that the Federation has. What's interesting is that first GM, and I didn't really actually have one here, and it's something that I didn't really notice until I got the kit in my hands, but the original GM has this sort of kind of mint green look to it. But it's interesting to see the Jegan has that as well. It's interesting that the Jegan is supposed to be a replacement for the GM. We can even see here developed from the GM3. The Nemo also being mass-produced is a good kind of part of that evolutionary tree. But yeah, the Jegan just became that kind of high-performance standard mass production suit that was used by the Federation. Yeah, first showed up in Char's counterattack. The D-Type, which is an awesome kind of upgrade considering the years apart Unicorn and Char's counterattack was made. It looks very similar, just the minor details, just to kind of, you know, make it a little more modern, but it still looks great. I think a lot of it is the proportions. And then we have that ground type A that is seen in Mobile Suit Gundam Hathaway. I did a recent live stream with Steven from Midnight Hatter where we actually talked about ECHOAs and how they happened to get a hold of they had a lot of the Jestas, kind of like the Special Forces type of unit, but then they even got the Jegans, and I guess we still see that sort of development is what kind of stayed with the Federation for quite some time. Then we got this cool one, this from F91. It's the RGM-89R Jegan A-Type, so it's not like the Type A, but it's an A-Type, and I like the way it looks. It looks very interesting how it has some elements from the Stark Jegan that we saw on Unicorn. So it's interesting that out of universe, if we look at when the shows are made, Char's counterattack was first, F91 was after that, and it jumped forward quite a bit. Later on, we get Unicorn, and they add the little antenna on the head that we see from Unicorn with the Stark Jegan to kind of, I guess, add that evolutionary branch, if you will. So really cool attention to detail, because I am really, really liking this suit a lot more that I see it. Now that brings me to the Jesta, because this is where I'd get confused. I think it's because the names are similar, Jegan, Jesta, and they have different types, you know. I guess, you know, with the Stark Jegan, it has like the armor on it as well to kind of give it some gray paneling. And while the Jesta is a darker color, it also has variants with, you know, paneling on it as well to kind of, I don't know. I guess I was the only one to get confused. But what the Jesta is actually from the Jegan. They took the Jegan and made a mobile suit that's 90% the power of a new Gundam and made it the Jesta. So I guess what's interesting, it could be that from Char's counterattack, Federation got Anaheim got the Saikamu technology. The Jegan was already in production, but they wanted to level that up, and that's where they got the Jesta out of that. Not that, I don't think that these Jestas have like a Saikamu system to a degree where a new type can leverage it, but maybe just in some way it can use the brainwaves of the pilot, the operator, to maybe do a little more. Because yeah, these are Special Forces suits. The Jesta was made to sort of be an escort to the Unicorn Gundam, so that RXO line, which is very interesting because we see when they show up in Unicorn, they're a bunch of badasses. And it's also interesting because within the Jesta team are Tri-Stars, something you might be familiar with from 0079. So it's kind of interesting how that kind of tri-star sort of thing kind of carried through. I find that very interesting. I think I looked up before if there was a reason for that in universe. Just because a lot of things that went on during 0079 got moved over to Anaheim Electronics anyway. So yeah, they talk about as the Unicorn Gundam's operating time in its destroy mode is limited, and I guess that is where this Jesta is able to step in if necessary. That's also interesting because I'm kind of coming to the conclusion here how we talk about how like powerful the Unicorn is, even in Gundam Battle Operation 2 when you're in that awakened mode, how powerful it is. But it had limited use, so it wasn't like it was unlimited in power. And in Unicorn, you see the times where the Unicorn's just not operable. Although the Jesta's weapon loadout is similar to the Jegan's, it features improved and more advanced weapons such as the customized beam rifle and backpack-mounted movable shield, which, like the Jegan's shield, contains 4 missiles. In addition to its advanced weaponry, the Jesta also carries 3 spare magazines for the beam rifle on the right forearm and a beam saber on its left forearm. So, it really reminds me of the Jegan being like the standard military army soldier. The Jesta is like the Special Forces, Navy SEALs, but it's based around the same sort of design. And going back to that, I find that very interesting with the Jesta, how, that shield is actually connected to the back and can move around, so it can still use both arms freely, move the shield as it needs to. So that is actually a very neat kind of a Special Forces function. That's why they would have these in limited numbers compared to the Jegan. And why you would see the Jegan later on during times like F91 and not the Jesta, even though we know why. Something I like here, the Jesta is essentially a product of the UC project. However, this fact has been kept hidden even within the Earth Federation forces. That's going to be another video, but that is very interesting. I just looked at some cool shots from Unicorn of the Jesta. Awesome looking suit. I'm falling way more in love with it than I thought I did before. Isn't that like every suit? Check that out. If that's not a Special Forces move, I don't know what is. And, the Jegan, I think, suffers from being in Char's counterattack. It's just the art is just okay for it, but I think there's been better representations of this mobile suit in later iterations of UC Gundam. I even think in F91, the way they kind of updated it looks really nice. Like, check that out. Isn't that from Hathaway? I guess they're like escorting that shuttle that was carrying the high-ranking executives from the Federation. They only see them for a little bit. You do see the Manhunters down on Earth. Here's an action figure of it with the base jabber. I guess I'll need some more of these because you do see them a lot with base jabbers. Base jabbers, I think, are underrated. Maybe to me, I don't really think about them that much, but you always see mobile suits using them in the atmosphere battles. So anyway, that was about it. Just a quick video to kind of talk about the differences and similarities between the Jegan and the Jesta. For me personally, I always got them confused, but also it's really interesting how they were used in Universal Century, how they are an evolution of each other. This was like prime Federation mass production. And then we kind of see the end of them by some of them still being used, the Jegan specifically, during F91, when the Federation wasn't really anything anymore anyway. So anyway, guys, thanks for watching. We'll talk later.